Well, hello you wonderful people, I'm Amy, or AWayfaringFrog, and welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you're new here. And also, I'm going to start doing facecam now, hopefully. We'll see. If you don't end up liking it, let me know in the comments down below. But I did put up a poll on my channel recently to ask what you all thought about that, and it seemed the consensus was largely either don't care or kind of like the idea of having a face cam, and I felt like it would help make the videos a bit more engaging since, I don't know, there's something about listening to someone talk without actually seeing them and their facial expressions is very different, so I felt like it would be nice to have the face cam, but we'll see. So let me know, like I said, whether you like it or whether you hate it, and I'll see what we do from there. It's not even my camera, I'm borrowing it off someone, so if it does become a permanent thing, I'm going to have to get my own camera. But anyhow, we are working on a speed build in Tartosa today, and this one is for my own personal save file. I am obsessed with the townie Morgyn Ember. If you're not familiar with them, they're from the Realm of Magic game pack. They're the Sage of Untamed Magic, and I just think they're amazing. I always play with them in every single save file I have, no matter how much I try not to. And so in my own gameplay, I've developed to the point where they have a lot of money and they are also living with their husband, who is a merman. And so because of that, I felt like having them live in somewhere that's by the sea would make a lot of sense, but I didn't really want them to live in not Tartosa, that's where we are. I didn't want them to live in Solani, which is where mermaids came from. It's in that expansion pack. They were kind of done dirty. I do wish the Sims team would update mermaids, but anyhow, it is what it is. And so because I didn't want them to live in Solani, I felt like the next best place was Tartosa, which came with the Wedding Stories game pack, so not the best pack by any means, so if you don't have it, I don't blame you, but it is a beautiful world that came with that pack, and honestly, that was pretty much the main reason I ended up buying it. And at this point, because I like recording videos for The Sims, I would probably have just bought it at this point anyway. Yeah, The Sims is not good for my wallet. But anyhow, we are building on Rifugio dei Pirati. I've probably butchered the pronunciation of that, but we are doing an Italian style villa which is in keeping with the world surrounding this lot, and it's such a pretty lot. I wanted them to live here because of the waterfall that the house looks out at, and then, like I mentioned, because Morgan's husband is a merman, I wanted them to have access to a beach, which is just right down below the house. And as a result, this is a 30 by 20 lot. It's quite small, and I wanted to give Morgan loads of space, and also obviously their husband, and then I'm hoping for them to have kids very soon in my gameplay. And they just needed to be really big. So it's 3 floors tall. The top floor is entirely dedicated to Morgan and their husband. So it's got a master bedroom, an ensuite, a walk-in wardrobe, an office. And then the second floor is just extra bedrooms. 2 of them I don't decorate because, as I mentioned, they don't have kids yet in my gameplay. So I decorate one of the 3 bedrooms as a nursery, but the other 2 I just leave blank. And honestly, it's already such a long build. It is 43 minutes long. So grab a snack and a drink if you haven't already, because it's going to be a long one. So let's see if I can talk for that long, especially with my face cam on. I even have to get up and actually get ready. I would usually just record this in my pajamas after I've rolled out of bed. I felt like that wasn't quite right for the whole world to see, so I figured I'd change that. So I did get ready. But anyhow, we are sorting out the floor plan, and I have a basement, so it's actually 4 floors tall, but obviously it just looks like 3, and then the basement access is outside under this covered portion of the garden. And again, part of the reason why it's so tall, although I think it looks good being this tall, so I mean, let me know if you disagree, but I feel it doesn't look overly ridiculous, which I was worried about initially when I set out to do such a tall build, but I think it works out. And the reason for that is because I just wanted so much garden space. I've built a house for Morgan before, and with their same husband, but because I only did it 2 floors tall and I wanted to fit a lot in, and there's only so much space for a basement, it meant that the garden kind of got sacrificed as a result. I just really hated it. So this is why I decided to rebuild the house. And the garden is so much bigger, there's so much space, and I use Riviera Retreat for around the pool area too, and it just looks so good. So I'm excited to get to that point to show you how that ends up developing. Also, quick disclaimer, I forgot to record a few sections of this build because it's for my own personal gameplay. I feel like I'm way more of a perfectionist over building these kinds of things. So it does cut out a bit later on. I think I forget to film half of the nursery and quite a bit of the basement. I start building the basement and then I just don't finish it on camera. So instead of the usual screenshots at the end, I figured we would do a little tour, so a live tour where I'll just walk you through the whole build, because I'm so sorry. I'm an absolute disaster when it comes to recording. But I didn't build this in one day. I built it over like the span of a month probably, because I went away on holiday halfway through building it. And like I said, I'm a perfectionist over builds that I'm going to play in. So it took ages. And then I had a giant break, and yeah, so I clearly just messed it up royally. I also had a horrendous glitch at some point because I built it outside of my own gameplay save file, and in order to import it in, I tried to grab it off my personal gallery and it wouldn't place. I kept getting this error. I can't remember what it said now, but it freaked me out so much because obviously I'd spent so long building it. I'd recorded the video at this point as well. So I was like, oh my God, well, what do I do? I can't finish my recording. So do I have to rebuild it from scratch? Anyway, it turned out, because I started jigsawing it together, placing it room by room, it turned out that the picture frame that came as an early purchase reward from the Life and Death expansion, that glitched out. And so whenever I tried to place the room that contained that item, it wouldn't place and I'd get an entire error. And it was like the terrain lifted up as if there was a building there, but it didn't build any of the walls or anything. And honestly, it scared me so much. But it turned out it was just that item. So once I deleted that, it worked. So you will still see me place that later on when we get to the office on the 3rd floor, but it's not in the version uploaded to the gallery because I deleted it and I was like, I don't like this item anymore. I'm not putting it back. So if you do have access to that item, you could put it there. Otherwise, just any other picture. I didn't replace it. I just literally deleted it. It hacked me off so much. I was like, I'm done with you. I'm just removing it from existence. Anyway, I'll point that out when we get to it. But for now, the outside is coming along really nicely. I used a lot of these debug items, which are the wisteria that come from cottage living. I did also start building this before Enchanted by Nature came out, but I finished it when we had Enchanted by Nature. So it's a little bit of a weird mix. But I think I like this wisteria more on the exterior personally, just because as much as I love the Enchanted by Nature one, this one's got a lot of different pieces, like different shapes. There's some tall skinny ones, there's big ones that spread out and go around corners. So even though it always bugs me that these items are in debug and not the normal catalogue, I think I prefer these for this purpose rather than the ones from Enchanted by Nature. But I am just doing a little bit of landscaping here as well. I do cut quite a bit of that out because it's very repetitive, so I figured I wouldn't put you through watching that several times over. But I'm just doing the usual trick of adding in some of these low-lying flowers, and then I'll go through and include taller bushes throughout the space. So if you've watched any of my videos before, you'll have seen the same kind of process. I like to just go in with one piece of landscaping, put that everywhere, and then do the next piece, repeat the process. So it does get very repetitive. So like I mentioned, I do cut some of that out. If you did want to download this build though, it is available on the Sims 4 gallery just under my EA ID, AWayfaringFrog. You can also find it under the hashtag AWayfaringFrog, and the information for all of that is always in the description down below. I've also got details on the lot size, the lot value, and everything in the description, so check that out if you're interested. It is an expensive one, partly because, well, it's a mansion, so it's huge, and therefore just the cost of all of the walls was a lot, and the basement is very big too. And then I went all out on the decorating. So there's a lot of stuff, and I wasn't worried about a budget because my Sims have accumulated so much money at this point that I just, yeah, wasn't too concerned about that. It does make the gameplay a little bit more boring, potentially. I do like having to work for my money. I don't necessarily like having to struggle, but it's nice when you've got goals that you have to meet, usually relating to earning money and then decorating your house. But I mean, I just redecorate it, just bulldoze, rebuild whenever I feel like doing something like that. So I don't mind too much. And like I said, it's my favourite townie and they deserve only the best, so I'm not too worried. We are now just working on the pool area though, and this is one of my favourite spots in the entire house. I think the Riviera Retreat stuff just makes it look so pretty. And I really wanted to keep this nice overhanging tree that was next to the pool. So I cut off a bit of a funny corner to it. And then on that funny corner is where I put the rocks, like the waterfall rocks from Riviera Retreat. So I'll be grabbing those very shortly, just adding in a few other items from that same kit. It's such a fun kit. I really do like this one. I still don't love the concept of kits, considering they're so expensive for not a lot of content, but I do really enjoy how focused they are on one small feature. And for this one, like a swimming pool, we don't really have a huge amount for pools, so I just love being able to have these items. But you can see now I've added in those little rock waterfalls and I'm just decorating around the rest of the space to fill it out and make it look really built in and purposeful. I also grabbed this kind of pergola item from that same kit. It was so pretty and I thought it would be really nice to have the sunbeds just kind of sitting underneath this. I can't remember which swatch I end up going with. I think I kept with this black one. I wasn't sure on if I wanted the gold and red because that feels so Morgyn Ember, but the black one kind of fit with the rest of the house more, so I think I stick with this one. I did also get the yellow chairs or the yellow lounges as well as that yellow umbrella because again, Morgan's being the Sage of Untamed Magic, which is very, the symbol is very fiery. Anything red or orange is very in keeping with their theme, so I felt like these were a great fit and I just wasn't feeling the red ones, so I went with this yellowy orange colour. And I mean, I personally love the colour yellow, so I enjoyed it, but I know a lot of people aren't the biggest fans, so hopefully you don't mind too much. And now I'm just adding some lighting around the space, so grabbing the ones from, I think they're from Life and Death. Yes, they are. I just really like the Life and Death outdoor lights. I think they're so pretty, so I went ahead and grabbed those. And then we're back to landscaping, so grabbing my favourite hydrangea bushes and dotting those around. And it helps bring in a lot of colour to the space. There isn't a huge amount of hydrangeas around in the world, I don't think. I usually try and make sure that my landscaping mirrors what is in the surrounding world so it doesn't look completely out of place. But I don't think there's hydrangeas around. I did pick very similar colours though, so lots of purples because the surrounding world uses a lot of that base game lavender. So I went through and added those, and I think it looks so pretty. There's such a nice pop of colour, and the brighter pink ones kind of help mirror the colour of the roof, which I like. I also added some around the border of the pool because it just felt so nice and cozy and really luxurious doing that, so I enjoyed that aspect of the pool as well. I mean, I wouldn't want to be the one to clean it because I feel like a lot of leaves and petals and things would fall into that, but these Sims are so rich, I'm pretty sure they'll be able to afford a dedicated cleaner, so they'll be fine. I am also just adding a nice little fire pit up on the second floor veranda area. I thought that would be a fun extra bit of gameplay to be able to have that there. And since it was from the Riviera Retreat kit, I felt like might as well. I've already put pretty much every item from that bag, so I wanted to go ahead and do that. I don't end up using the chairs from that kit though, because they're so similar. All of this stuff is very matchy-matchy, and I just didn't like how it looked. So I ended up just going for some, I think they're Get Together, the outdoor chairs with the rose feature on the back. I can't remember what pack they're from. I feel like it's either base game or Get Together. could maybe tell you a bit about Morgan's husband, who also lives here. So he is a merman, as I mentioned. I've created a bit of a backstory for him as well, where his mother unfortunately passed away while he was quite young, and his father was one of those elementals from Solani. So if you're not familiar with those, the elementals can be summoned by people who have a specific trait from that pack. I can't remember what it's called now, but you can basically summon them, and it's all about helping restore Muar Palam, which is the volcanic island of the 3 neighborhoods in Solani. Anyhow, he ended up becoming a jewelry maker because he was trying to find a craft that would allow him to make money but would still be of interest to people in Solani, so that he can easily sell what he creates. And he ended up meeting Morgyn at some stage. Morgyn was currently in a relationship with Lilith Fator, but they really hit it off and ended up spending a lot of time together. And eventually Morgyn broke up with Lilith for reasons that I won't quite go into, but she wasn't a very nice person in my story. She's not a bad person, but she made some mistakes, and that ended up breaking her relationship up with Morgyn. And Morgyn finally realised how much they are in love with Severin, which is the name of their husband. And so, yeah, that's the little backstory of that particular sim that I created. I really like them as a couple. I think they're so cute. So let me know if you're interested in hearing more about my little sim stories. I've written quite a lot of a little mini book, I suppose, just for my own personal fun. I just find it fun to be able to do creative writing. But if anyone's ever interested, if you do like fanfic or something, let me know and maybe I'll upload it somewhere at some stage. It's still a work in progress, but it might be fun to share it, because I love hearing about other people's sim stories too, so I'd be interested to hear what you think about that. But anyhow, I've talked over pretty much the entirety of the kitchen at this point, but you can see that I'm using the newish base game counters, the ones that came in the 25th anniversary event, or not event, just the 25th anniversary, and I picked this swatch with the black marble on top to help tie in all of the black marble that's kind of throughout the rest of the house. Like, there's a lot of black accents on the exterior, and also the life and death stuff has a lot of black marble, which looks so pretty, so they match really nicely. I also used the tool mod to resize the curtains in the kitchen. They're the ones from Riviera Retreat, and I just used the tool mod for that, which is by Twisted Mexi. If you're ever interested in any of the mods that I use in my building, I also use one that stops curtains from snapping to windows, which is by Ravasheen. All of the mods and the related links are in the description down below, so be sure to check those out. I am going through now and using my favourite kitchen clutter kit, which is the kitchen clutter kit. It's so good. I'm really happy that they added this. It's got so many nice pieces that I feel like work in a variety of different house styles. So I made sure to go through and add all of those. The shelves that I've got above the fridge area as well, they're from the Sleek Bathroom Kit. Another one of my favourite kits. I do end up using that for all of the bathrooms too. So again, I'm so sorry if you're sick of seeing me build with those, because I use these kits all the time, but they're so perfect. And yeah, I really like them. And I was thinking of maybe doing another starter home speed build soon, because I'm actually going away on holiday at the end of August, and so from a pre-recording point of view, I felt like it would be good to maybe just do some starter homes as a little bit of something different, and also it means I can record a little bit quicker because, like I mentioned, building this took days and days, and it would be nice to do something within like a few hours, which is usually only starter home territory for me because I'm such a slow builder. I just haven't practiced enough, I don't think, and I'm just not that familiar with the catalogue. As they keep adding more packs as well, it's just becoming so big and so difficult to navigate. So it's really, really hard. I keep seeing that there seems to be some kind of a favorites tab within the catalogue, but you can't access it yet. So I think they're planning to implement some kind of a favorites system. I really kind of wish that they'd maybe implement more than just a favorites. If they could allow us to categorize our own items. So say if I wanted to specifically build something very cottagey, I could create my own cottage style section within the buy catalogue and then add all of the items that I want for that purpose. Whenever I want to build a cottage or like a rustic barn or something like that, I can just immediately filter by that, and it will pick out all of the items that I've pre-selected to be included in that, so I can just see just those kind of more rustic items. And then maybe the same for having such much more modern items. I can just select anything that I want in the normal catalogue and have them link over to that little folder almost. I think that would be really useful, but having a favorites option is definitely a start, so that is fantastic if it ever gets added into the game, because I swear it appears to have been a thing for so long but has not been implemented, which makes me very sad. So fingers crossed that becomes a thing soon, but I guess we'll see. Anyhow, we are now just sorting out the entrance area. As you can see, the dining table has this lovely rug from the, I want to call it the Generations pack, the Growing Together pack. It's one of my favorite rugs and I use it pretty much all the time, and I think the colors of it in this particular swatch tie in really nicely with the life and death chairs. So I went ahead and did that. I am also just decorating this little spot underneath the stairs, but I end up moving it off camera. Basically, I make the archway into the living room a little bit smaller so it takes up one tile instead of two, and then that allows me to fill in the space under the stairs just with a wall. And then I bring what I'm currently decorating, which is this little side bureau table thing, and just bring it forwards so there's less of a big open space in that kind of almost corridor area. But I don't show that on camera, so I can point that out in the tour at the end of the build. But otherwise, we are pretty much done with this particular part of the living area. I did include a little hot chocolate station because, again, I feel like that's a fun little feature and it's nice to have something cute and cozy for your Sims in winter. And then I also added the candy making station from Businesses and Hobbies. And of course you've got just the normal kitchen area so your Sims can work on their cooking and things. I did also include that little cookie jar from the kitchen clutter kit so your Sims can grab cookies, as well as the little basket of, or the bag of groceries. And I think that that is really nice and useful items because you can order groceries directly from that little bag. So it's something I keep trying to include in my builds. But now we are in the living space and it's quite small in comparison to the dining area, but I think it works well. I end up using a lot of the Secret Sanctuary or Bella Goth kit items, so that's where the TV is from. I just sized it up a bit from, using the tool mod, because just by default it's quite small, but then if I size it up in game it ends up being way too big. So that's one of the reasons I love the tool mod, so thank you Twisted Mexi. I also used the bookshelves from that same kit. I think they're so pretty and I like how skinny they are. They fit in a lot of spaces, so that worked perfectly. And then the sofas and armchair are actually from the Refined Living kit, which is another CC Creator kit. Those are so good. I love all of the CC Creator kits because, again, it's Simmers who are making those. It means that they know what we want, and what we want is a full living set. So I just love that we've got a 2-seater sofa, a 3-seater sofa, and an armchair. It's perfect. And then the cushions are from the Modern Luxe kit. I just added those for a bit of variety. And again, because Morgyn is very themed around fire, I felt like having a very red themed house was perfect for them. So if you are wondering where that colour scheme came from, again, that's why. Similarly, why I used the orange stuff outside, because it's also kind of a fiery colour, but it just felt like the orange suited outside more. It's more sunny, and because we're in Tartosa, I thought it was nice. The inside just looks so fancy, I feel. It's very, very rich is what it's giving, but I kind of like that. And again, Morgyn is rich at this point in my save file. I am just cluttering up the little spaces in the living area now though, so Like I mentioned, these bookshelves are super skinny, so it's a bit difficult sometimes to put clutter on them, but I just alt placed those and then it worked. The statues as well, they're from the Refined Living kit, so there's kind of like a cool sculpture of a head that's very modern, and then those two kind of tall items, like vases almost, but they're not vases, they're also from that same kit. And then upstairs into the main bathroom. So this is kind of almost the family bathroom. I didn't show the other two on camera. So there's another smaller bathroom, which is more like accessible for guests as well as just being an extra place for your Sims to shower. And then the ensuite I don't record because they're basically the same but slightly different layouts. And as I mentioned, I used the sleek bathroom kit up here, and I tried to make my own custom storage solution using the sleek bathroom kit items. So those like stone pieces that you can see, I've lined them up against where the shower area is, just as like a nice little shelf for your Sims to be able to grab their soap and things. I used those to create a base and then put the shelf pieces on top, and I think it looks so pretty. So it makes this kind of almost built-in effect. And I figured, I mean, it doesn't matter regardless, but I figured that perhaps if you are thinking of this realistically, the base where I've put the two stone pieces could potentially just be a cupboard, but it's got like an invisible handle or something. So in my mind, there was more storage within that. But obviously it doesn't matter for your Sims how much storage they have, as long as they have the tools that they need to be able to cook and sleep and everything and fulfill all of their needs. They don't need extra storage. So they can put whatever they want in their personal inventory somehow and it's fine. So they don't need the storage space. But I like to think that's what it is for, because I really enjoy trying to make my builds as realistic as possible. So I felt like having lots of bathroom storage would make sense. But I've pretty much finished cluttering that space up, just adding a bit into where the shower area is, so you've got access to your soaps and shampoos and things, as well as just making sure there's lots of greenery to help break up all of the kind of orangey tone that I've got going on in here. So I add a few plants in here and there. And I feel like plants would really enjoy this room because it probably gets super humid, and then especially the ones next to the shower, they'll just get watered from the shower, which seems kind of nice. But we are now moving upstairs into the master bedroom, and as I mentioned, this top floor is just dedicated to Morgyn and their husband. So we're starting in the master bedroom, and I used this really pretty bed from Life and Death. I do end up switching out the side tables, I think. I was a bit unsure on how I wanted to decorate for a while, but I do use a bit of the Modern Luxe kit anyway. I do just switch out a couple of things later on. I also really wanted to use this costumes item because it just seems fun. It's the one from Lovestruck, but I didn't end up finding a place that it fit, so I just removed that entirely a bit later on. And then this little room is where I am creating the walk-in wardrobe, and you can go through that into the ensuite, which I've already decorated because, as I mentioned, I didn't include any of the other bathrooms on camera. But I think the walk-in wardrobe looks really pretty. I do end up changing the swatch of the cupboards. I can't remember if I do that off camera or not, but the white was really throwing me on this black swatch. So I ended up going for the really dark wood tone with the kind of sage green on the front, and that tied in really nicely with the roses that are on the wallpaper I used from Lovestruck. So I think that ends up looking a lot better, but I don't think I included that on camera. So again, we'll see that when we do the tour at the end. But I am just cluttering the space up, so making sure that there's plenty of storage for Severin, Morgyn's husband, as well as Morgyn themselves. And I just think it's a really cute little space, and it's such an awkward shape because of where the stairs are, but I feel like it works out nicely and it doesn't look bad despite the awkwardness of having this bump out in the middle of the room. So hopefully you agree. But if you are enjoying the video, be sure to hit that like button. It really does help the channel. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and enable notifications so you'll know when I next upload a video. I have my upload schedule on my channel if you want to check that out. But every Sunday at 5 p.m, currently British summertime, but usually Greenwich Mean Time, I'll upload a speed build like today. Every Monday I'll do a tour, usually of the build that I've just uploaded. And then on Wednesdays, I do a little short of just a room decoration, and Thursdays are Let's Play days because I've got really into doing Let's Plays lately. So hopefully you are enjoying those videos, but I do primarily like building, so that is my main focus. But it is kind of fun to actually play The Sims sometimes, and I still haven't managed to play my own save file despite me making this house for Morgyn. I haven't got round to playing it for about 6 months now, if not longer. So I'm super keen, especially now that I finally finished the house, to actually dive into that. It's not something I'm planning to record though, that is just for me. It is nice to have something a bit separate to YouTube occasionally, I guess, because otherwise everything starts to feel like work. I do a lot of crochet and I started making an Etsy store a while back. This was before lockdown, and yeah, it really took the fun out of crocheting. I don't think, unless I've got more time, I guess, but because I've got a full-time job, it's so difficult to be able to keep the store stocked. So I ended up scrapping that. I do still crochet, just not for a store. But anyway, we have pretty much finished decorating the master bedroom and just jumping outside to the little veranda space that they've got. Or balcony space, and I made sure to include a hot tub because that felt like a fun item for your Sims. And I really love this statue that came from the businesses and hobbies early purchase reward. It's meant to be like a tattoo related statue, but it was so pretty, and because in my gameplay Morgyn is very artsy and has worked in fashion design as well as being an actor, so I just felt like it was a fun sculpture to have. Maybe Morgyn designed it and got someone to sculpt it or something, but I thought it was a lot of fun. I just love that statue, it's so pretty. There are some swatches that have a lot of tattoos on as well. I just went for the plain version there. And just grabbing a few more activities for your Sims before we're heading into the office. And I imagined this would be more Morgyn's office because their career often requires them to use a computer, whereas Severin is self-employed, so he mostly just crafts jewelry and then goes out to sell it on the selling table that came from Crystal Creations. So he doesn't really need a computer so much. So this is mostly Morgyn's room, but either of them can use it, was what I kind of envisioned while decorating this. And so this is the room where we've got that really awkward picture that came from the Life and Death early purchase reward, which I deleted. So you'll see me add it, and you'll also see my Sims appear on it because that's kind of the purpose of it. If you weren't aware, there is a mod of it. I think it might be from Ravasheen. And it allows you to select kind of a family portrait, so it will just auto-populate the Sims in your household, and then you can alter their clothes on it as well as changing the pose, I think. And you can also lock the portrait so it keeps a specific pose that you've chosen, and then if you wanted to get another one and update it, if your family have grown a little bit or something, then you can either unlock it and it will reset to what the household currently looks like. Otherwise you can buy another one and kind of have two family portraits. So it's a really fun item and a great feature, but when it breaks and makes me panic and spend hours trying to troubleshoot to figure out why my build won't place, I don't love it. So I do remove it, but it's a nice item, and if you're just playing in your own save file, then it should be fine, but I wouldn't place a build that has that item in if I were you, because it will just cause a lot of headaches. Although now that I've warned you, hopefully that will help if you've ever had a similar issue where your build won't place and you don't know why. It's probably because there's like a gameplay tied item that is bugged. So just delete that and you should be good, I imagine. Hopefully. But anyhow, we have pretty much decorated the office. I used one of the Life and Death rugs, which is so pretty. Here is the culprit, which made me want to cry so many times, but it looks fine for now. And now we're jumping into the basement, and you'll see I've already mapped out the floor plan for it. That was partly because it took me so long to figure it out, due to the fact that because the main build is on a foundation, when you create the basement, it it auto places up to where the floor above is. So it goes through the foundation. And as a result, if you end up building beyond the limitations of the main build and that foundation, it will raise the terrain up. And then you have to, if you want to fix that, you can just raise or lower down the whole basement, and that will solve the problem because then it will be at the same height as the ground. But as a result, there's this weird gap in the stairways that I hate so much that I refuse to deal with it. So that's why I tried to keep it within the limitations of the build above. So I was very restricted on where I could put everything, but I figured it out in the end. And so Morgyn is very into nectar making, so I made sure to include a space for that. There's plenty of storage for all of the nectar. I don't end up adding any in to the version that's uploaded to the gallery, just FYI, if you wanted to grab some free nectar. I'm afraid it's not there. It's currently all in Morgan's inventory and I have to go through the painstaking process of putting it all back. But anyhow, there is also this station for your Sims to make nectar, and then just lots of decorations, including I make a little space where they can taste test their various nectars, which I thought was a bit of fun. And I really like this room. I think it's one of my favourite packs actually, Horse Ranch, which is where nectar making came from. I never thought it would be, but playing with horses is so much fun. I really love that expansion. I haven't played it for a while now, and I keep dreaming of getting back to it and playing with horses again. So maybe I'll bring that into my fairies let's play. We could create a unicorn or something that Nick could own and start working on that. That might be a bit of fun. But anyway, different build, different let's play. I always dream of playing with not fairies, with horses again. It's just so much fun. But anyway, we are just adding in lots of purples and reds in the decor because, again, it just felt very in keeping with Morgan's colour scheme, and then the purple was more the nectar colour, I suppose, because the first nectar that you can create is grape nectar, so very purple. And I made sure to include lots of cute little clutter above the storage racks for the nectar, which is those like crisscrossy items to the side. You might also be wondering what's going on with the top of it. And essentially those nectar racks are always quite a rustic, they have a very rustic look to them because they're from Horse Ranch, so very rustic pack. But they don't have any clean swatches, or I think they do, but they're coloured, like a pale blue or a pale yellow or something. And I didn't want to use those, I wanted it to be wooden. But all of the wooden swatches look super rustic and it just wasn't the vibe. So because you can't see it from the front as much, but you can from the top, I ended up just popping on the, oh my gosh, what's it called? The Book Nook kit, the Book Nook kit shelves. I couldn't believe I forgot the name of it there. It's one of my favourite kits. But I just used those shelves and lined them up above the nectar racks, and so it covered up the most of the like rustic look to them, where it looks worn or old or discoloured. And it just looks like nice shelving units. And then I added in a load of clutter into those, including some items from base game. There's a few nectar bottles from Life and Death, as well as one from the Cozy Bistro kit. So it looks like a nice little mix of things, and I think it just ties it together really nicely. So I like that feature. I think it's a fun one. And just adding a bit more decor into the space so it just looks brighter and more like a place that you'd want to hang out in, bearing in mind that there are 0 windows, so it's kind of dark and gloomy, but I think it's nice enough that it's fine that there's no windows. And to be fair, there kind of is, because the stairwell is open to the elements, I guess. So there is some natural light coming in through the double doors. But anyhow, we are now jumping into the arts workshop. So as I mentioned, Severin is a jewellery maker. He also makes candles and does a lot of woodworking. And then Morgan is a painter. And so I wanted to make sure to combine all of these items. And because I started rebuilding this around when businesses and hobbies came out, I thought it would be fun to also add a pottery wheel. I figured that their child, when I eventually play again and have that child, the child could grow up to be really interested in pottery. So I wanted to make sure I had space for that because I think it's such a fun in-game feature to be able to make pottery. So I was keen to add that in. But I do end up really struggling with the floor plan for a while, so I did cut some of it out, but I ended up cutting the build or this room in half, so there was more like Severin space with the jewelry making station, the woodworking station, the pottery wheel, and then the artist's studio is at the entrance to this room. And I think it works out well. I also cordon off the candle making part because honestly, I find that candle making station is, there's not enough swatches and it just doesn't work very well combined with all of these other items that I've got because it still looks quite fancy, I feel, but very functional with all of the different activities for your Sims. But it wasn't working, so I figured I'd just throw it in its own little cupboardy room and then we don't have to think about it. But it is there and it is functional. I always playtest every build that I do, so everything works. I mean, I might have missed something, so if it doesn't fully work for you, I am sorry, but it should, the main features should be fine. There's just potentially one or two small things that don't work. But we are now cluttering up after I finally figured out how to lay everything out. And I can't remember when, but it is at some point while we're doing this that I will just skip over to the nursery, and the nursery will already be half furnished. Probably a bit more than half furnished as well. So again, I'm sorry about that. I clearly just forgot to record at some stage. I do it so often. I don't know how I haven't learned yet, but it's a bit of a problem. So apologies. But like I said, we'll do a live tour at the end rather than screenshots, so I can hopefully point out all of the things that were missed from the speed build, because there's a lot of decor in this art area as well that I just didn't include, like those cozy book nook kit shelves above the different workstations. I put loads of crystals and things in those, but just forgot to record that part, so you have no idea. They just look empty and boring at the moment, but it's so pretty and colourful in game. I also included some open shelves near the pottery wheel. I don't decorate those. I don't even think I put all of the shelves on camera though. Yep, here we go. We've jumped over to the nursery. So we'll take another look at that a bit later on. But in the nursery, I ended up using a lot of the storybook nursery kit items and combined those with some of the assets from the fairies pack, Enchanted by Nature. And I tried to make the colour scheme a little bit different because obviously even though it's Morgyn's child, I figured that they probably wouldn't make a deep moody red room for their newborn. So I went with more of a kind of fantasy blue colour, sort of inspired by Severin, I suppose, since he is a merman. And I think it looks so cute. I really love this rug that came from Enchanted by Nature. It's got so many amazing swatches and they're just so pretty. So I included this griffin one with, actually, I think I change it to more of a pink tone. I might be wrong, I can't remember now, but I do really like this rug. But anyhow, we have pretty much come to the end of the speed build portion of the video, so we will jump straight back in to doing a little tour very shortly. Okay, so this is the build on the lot Rifugio de Pirati. Again, probably butchering that pronunciation, but as you can see, it's pretty big, but I don't think it looks out of place. And it's on this lovely hilltop overlooking this beautiful waterfall area with the bridge, and it's so nice here. So I was so determined to build a very big but nice looking house on this lot. And you can also see my Sims here. Morgyn is just playing with the cat, and Severin is selling his jewelry that he's crafted here. I did add in off camera a few items around here too. So there's a charging station, and I figured that one would be specifically for the stuff that your Sims would sell. And then if we start in the back garden, we've got some beautiful trees, and you can go in through the front gate here. I always like to fence off my gardens because random Sims otherwise just love coming in and ruining stuff, like kicking over my bins. But do I have the bin? Where is my bin? I don't actually remember. Aha, the bin's around here, so it is definitely protected from mean Sims trying to kick stuff over. But you can see we have a lovely garden space here. You've got a nice dining area outside with the parasol. There's also some nice lounge beds with a lemonade stand and this really pretty pool, which if I play as well, it just looks so scenic. Down onto this balcony space here, we've got another little dining table for if it's not so good weather. We've also got our barbecue. There's the bin and the entrance to the basement. I've also added in some items that you can use for your nectar. So there's grapevine, strawberries, spinach. But going downstairs, this is the little entrance to our basement. So it's very simple. I did put a piece of artwork which is covered, so it shouldn't get too nasty. But that was something that Morgyn painted, so I thought it was nice. And then here is that nectar making area that I talked about. Oh, I'm pretty sure I painted the ceiling on the version that's on the gallery, but maybe I forgot. Anyway, you can always paint that yourself if you need to. But this is pretty much as was shown on the speed build, so nothing much changed here really. The main thing that changed was the fact that we have a potion room, which wasn't on camera at all. But because Morgyn is a spellcaster, I felt like we really needed to have a cauldron because it's so useful. And there's a lot of empty shelf space for you to add the various things that you can collect, like the crystals you'd need for potion making. I have already collected the frogs and put them here, but otherwise it's kind of a work in progress decor area. I didn't want to put everything because when I play with my own gameplay I like to earn it, so that's why the shelves look a little bit sparse, but you can collect your various magical artifacts and start putting them in there was the idea. And then through this other door is where we've got the artist space. So the first section is Morgyn's space. I think this photo I had to remove for some reason. It thought that was CC, so I just put a base game picture there instead. But you can see it's a bit more decorated with some more nice artwork and things. And then we've got that candle making space where I've just popped lots of dyes and also the shells that Severin collected whilst he lived in Solani. And then there's also the decoration box in here. And then in Severin's space, you can see the colourful crystals that I've got up here, which weren't on camera. And I think it's so magical in here. I absolutely love the space. And of course, there's that pottery station. If we head back upstairs, and the entrance to the building is here. There's a nice little section for you to stay out of the rain or the sun, depending on the weather. And here is that entryway space. As I mentioned, any photos have been removed from the version on the gallery, but you can see how I've added this wall in underneath the stairs and then brought this section forwards. There's a nice little seat here for you to put your shoes on and such. And then the dining space with a lovely record player. It's just very open, it's not overly cluttered, and I think it's very pretty. And then the kitchen space with lots of clutter, but I don't think it looks too messy or anything, so I do like that. And we've got a cat, so I made sure to include the necessary items for her. And then moving into the living space, which looks out onto the pool and this lovely scenery in Tartosa. We've got the refined living kit sofas. I did also add this little infant mat in. Moving upstairs then, which you can access from a couple of places. You can access it from the covered portion outside and then go up to the balcony here, and then there's a way into the corridor. But you can also just use the staircase that's at the front of the house, and that will bring you into this corridor, which I also didn't show on camera. It's very simple though. There's just some nice pictures that you can customize with your own photos, as well as a cute little cross stitch, and then just a bit more decor, as well as a crow, because I think the crow is very cute from Life and Death, so I wanted to make sure to include one. And then here is that family bathroom that was decorated on camera. And then around here, just next to the outside area, there's a little fire pit, another artist space, and a crystal charging section. And then through this door is kind of the bathroom that I imagined the guests would use. Obviously they can use that family bathroom if they want, but because there isn't a bathroom or a toilet downstairs at all, I figured that would be more of the guest room space. And then, as I did point out, there are two completely unfurnished rooms. That's just because honestly, it was already such a long build, so I left those empty. Moving into the only decorated bedroom on this floor is this infant's room, which I did show on camera, and I think it's really pretty, and it's very yellow and blue in here, and I added in some of the Enchanted by Nature stuff. I love these little acorn items, and this dollhouse is so cute, so I went ahead and added that. They also have their own balcony. All of the bedrooms do, except this one, but I think that one's also potentially the biggest. I'm not sure. But then moving into, or upstairs, the top floor, we've got these double doors that open up onto a little space where you can play chess. And that looks out over this gorgeous view, which is so pretty. And obviously I figured Severin would be able to swim around here since he is a merman. There's not a lot in this little corridor space because of the way I've got the doors laid out. So just a bit of decoration, but otherwise it's quite simple. And then over to the right hand side, you could always switch this out to be another bedroom if you wanted, but otherwise this is where I included the office. So there's just a desk as well as some lovely bookshelves, and that picture has gone. So the version on the gallery doesn't have that, so you shouldn't have any issues with placing the build. And then over through here, I did create a bit of a void space because there was such an annoying nook, so I got rid of that. And we've got the master bedroom here, so I added this little cot for newborn. There's a vanity table, a nice bookshelf, and there's two balconies off this bedroom. So you've got the front one, which has a nice little plant, which again, the game's not telling me what it is. But there's also a yoga mat. And then over here, we've got the main balcony for the master bedroom, which has the hot tub as well as this beautiful statue and a nice place to sit. And it feels very private because it's very kind of away from, I feel that's going to be a big tourist spot down there, but it's nice and private up here. And then through this door, we get into the little walk-in wardrobe, which as you can see I've changed the colour, and I think it just ties in so much better than having the white on them. I do wish there was an all black version, but there isn't. And so plenty of storage for your clothes, and this is the ensuite, so very similar to the other bathrooms, just slightly different layout due to the shape of the actual room. So I really hope that it was helpful to be able to do a little tour. Let me know if you prefer that, because I'm more than happy to start doing that instead of what I had before, which is where I just put screenshots up. I think it's kind of nice to have a tour, but I felt like without a face cam previously, it just wouldn't work as well. And also the fact that I didn't record so much of this build, I really wanted to make sure to do a tour instead of just screenshots, so it made a bit more sense to you. But I really hope you have enjoyed this video. If you have, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and enable notifications so you'll know when I next upload a video. As always, thank you so much for watching. It really means a lot to have your support, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Bye for now.